Just gonna check and make sure that it goes live. Yep, we are live. Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday. How's everybody doing today? I have Liz with me. For those of you who don't know, Liz is our client support specialist in the Happy Hormones program. So she's an additional support to all of the women in there, making sure they have access to all of the links, all of the information, but also making sure that they are getting through the process with as few bumps as possible. So Liz, why don't you just share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll hop right into our conversation today.
Well, I love all things admin. So when I had the opportunity to do that and help women get through redoing their hormones and like having magical periods, I'm like, sign me up. So I super love the program. I love just seeing women transform, see how their families transform. And it's just something that I love that's a part of my daily life now. So it's exciting.
Awesome. Amazing. And yes, she's an incredible admin and an amazing support to myself, but everybody else in the program. So today we're going to be chatting about mindset, and can that really influence your hormones and really the outcome that you have with your hormones? Because that's really the goal, right? Is to get you rid of your mood swings, your irritability, fatigue, painful periods. And mindset is actually a much bigger part of the healing process than many of us even realize. So we're going to just open up the conversation about that today. If you have questions or thoughts while we are going through our training today, please feel free to just hop on and exactly. If my kids were here, that would be every 2 seconds, somebody popping up behind my head. So feel free to ask questions and we'll be sure to answer them as we go along, or maybe after if we're not able to see. Sometimes we're not able to see the questions. So so this is kind of mindset and moods are kind of a two-way street. So how many of you, when you get, 7 to 10 days before your cycle, you start having like a lower mood, everything feels a little bit more negative, heavy, just kind of like blah, and that makes it a lot harder to make any changes that you might want to see with your hormones, like eating food that is beneficial to your hormones, or making sure that you're getting quality sleep, because does anything in life actually matter? I know for me, like when those mood swings would hit, it's like nothing in life matters anymore. And I'm just going to eat whatever I want because, the PMS monster was running the show. So that's one side of the coin, right? Is that your mood is driving your mindset and your belief system. And part of that is, the neurotransmitters and just what happens neurologically, because our hormones are kind of tanking at certain times of the month. Then there's the other aspect of it, which is truly the mindset that determines if we're actually going to overcome our hormone imbalances. And we're going to just share our own experiences with that, but also how we work with women in the Happy Hormones program to overcome that. So I know for me, I'd gotten, my mindset was that this is normal. Painful periods are normal. Mood swings are normal. It is normal to want to rip your husband's head off and just expect that he's going to forgive you, like by the time that week's over. It's normal to have cramps so bad that you have to crawl to the bathroom, or you can't leave your room, or the flow is too heavy to actually go anywhere. Like that was my mindset, was this was normal. And that was tolerable until it was no longer tolerable anymore. Meaning that like my ability, it's like you've lost the elasticity of the rubber band and it just snaps and it's no longer flexible. It's no longer doable anymore. And once I hit that point, I kind of started wondering, like, maybe this isn't normal. Like maybe I shouldn't feel this way. Maybe there is something better for me, but I didn't tolerate birth control like at all. Made me very sick and made me feel like a crazy person. And I knew that there had to be something. And so I kind of began the search that many of you are on, where you're getting your labs tested, you don't feel well. You've tried, a lot of supplements. I think I was spending like probably $400 a month on supplements at that point and not getting anywhere. And that season was very hard. And I could have chosen to give up, and that would have been acceptable because I wasn't finding help, right? But at the same time, it was like my mindset was like, no, if this isn't normal, then I have to figure out what it is that's going to help me get better. And so, really, once that mindset flipped for me, that's really what allowed me to get some healing. Because when my doctors kept coming back to me saying your labs are normal, your labs are fine, but just go on psych meds. And by psych meds, that's like a broad category, for antidepressants or sleep medicine or anything that affects your psychology and your neurotransmitters. And I was like, no, like something inside of me was just like, that's not the problem. Like there's something going on with my hormones because I feel okay, like 2 weeks out of the month. The other 2 weeks out of the month, I'm not okay. So like there's something wrong here. So my mindset is what propelled me to find answers. And it wasn't really until I started feeling better that I realized like that was a very discouraging and a very hard experience to go through. And so we kind of wanted to share a little bit about what that looks like when women get into the Happy Hormones program and they start to make some progress or they start to take some action in getting better, and what that looks like. Because what ends up happening is they might hit a little bump in the road, meaning they might go from 10 days of mood swings to 3, and it wasn't a perfect magical period like Liz was talking about. So share a little bit about your experience with that, Liz, and then we can kind of talk about how we work, how we help women in the program to overcome some of the mindset stuff that comes up.
Yeah. Well, my mindset going into it was I was really skeptical. As much as I was hopeful, I was skeptical because my history with doctors is like, you're fine. You're fine. They would minimize my symptoms. They would, show me my labs that they were completely normal. My doctor told me that my liver levels were like almost perfect. And yet I was having all of these symptoms. And I'm like, this is not adding up. Or they'll say, for me as a plus size woman, they always say it's because you're overweight and you need to lose weight. And it's like, well, struggle with that my whole life, like it's
right.
So you kind of feel hopeless, like you're stuck in this rut and you're never going to get out. And even when I was going through cancer treatment, we would ask the doctor for natural stuff. Like, can I change my diet? What can I do so I'm not just poisoning or burning or like cutting things off? Like, what is another option? And they were like, nothing. And so when I found you and you're like, there's a natural way to do this. This isn't normal. You don't have to put up with it. I think there was a part of me even going through the program where I'm like, I don't really believe it. Like, I feel like I'm going to do all the things and I'm still going to have these terrible periods and just, it's just going to be another thing, another notch in my belt that I tried that didn't work. And
totally.
So I think as I did see my symptoms change and I had you and the other women in the program saying, it's the Titanic is moving and it's going to get better. And when I had my first magical period, I was like in awe. And I still struggled with some PTSD. I didn't go to a family event because I'm like, no, it's just a matter of time. I know the cramps are going to hit and I'm going to be this raging lunatic at this birthday party. And so I didn't go, but then I was sitting at home waiting and feeling great. So it was really funny, but it's possible. And it was the first time where I had support as I was doing something to keep me accountable, keep me doing all the things, even when I was struggling with my skepticism and, being pessimistic about it. I had a group of women that I'm like, I'm doing this with you. Here's what I've tried that works. And that was the difference for me. I think if I would have done it on my own, I probably wouldn't have pushed through the hard stuff, or even my mindset of, I just need to lose weight. Like, my hormones are, in a crappy place because of what the doctors have always told me,
Right. And I'm trying this and I'm not getting anywhere because I can't lose weight, when really that's not even the thing you should be focusing on. Yeah.
Yeah. And for years, doctors constantly, swept all of my like health stuff, medical stuff under that rug of it's just your weight. And if you just lost the weight, you wouldn't have to deal with any of this. So it's like this hopeless bubble. And, it's hard to
Yeah,
lose weight if your hormones are not, where they need to be. You're fighting
right,
against, a windstorm. So that was really huge for me is really the support, having you along the way and just saying like, this is a normal detox symptom, this is what you can expect when you try this step.
right,
It was life changing for me. And I think, I struggle with perfectionism, and I do see that a lot with the ladies that do join is like, you're the mom, you're doing all the things, and everybody's looking for you to be the one that holds everything together. And I think when you
right,
make that step to invest in your health, you feel like you have to do it perfectly, where it's like all or nothing, or you're this big
right,
failure and you're not going to get what all these other women experience because you don't have all
right,
the things, all the ducks in the row. And I really try to help women. Like, it's not about perfection, it's progress. It's progress
right,
over perfection, and making those small steps that are going to get you there. Like, you don't need to have, everything exactly, in place to
right,
move forward. And I
right.
think the biggest thing that we really encourage women in the group is to understand what it means to listen to your body and
Yeah,
listen to what your body's saying each month, and not just bunching it all up like we normally do,
right.
like, oh, it's just being a woman, it's just something I have to deal with. It's like, no,
Totally.
if you have a certain symptom, your body is telling you, hey, I need some extra support here.
Right.
And I think that was the biggest thing coming out of the program, is being empowered to know how to do that.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and I think that's there's kind of this mesh in, right, of like, if we're going to talk about um, diet culture has ingrained in us, right, that if we don't do a certain thing perfectly, if we don't do keto perfectly, if we don't do intermittent fasting perfectly, if we don't count our carbs and our calories and make sure we're working out, we're not going to see results. And so it's a very harmful mindset because then we
Yeah.
lose this connection with our body. Well, it's the same thing. I see this crop up all the time because all of us at one point or another have
Right.
done something like that. We've done a harmful diet. You guys get the privilege of learning from the person who's done all of them. So, done all of them. And some of them worked well until they didn't work, and then it was learning like, oh, but that process really left me feeling very disconnected from my body. And so that same mindset of all or nothing, it has to be perfect or I'm not going to get results, in part because you've kind of been gaslit by the medical community. Let's just call it what it is, where you're told to ignore your symptoms and put them on the back burner. Oh, it's not that, it's really just this because I'm looking at this piece of paper. Like, we should have trained professionals that can read a piece of paper and read the patient,
Right.
which is why I ended up leaving the hospital system and doing what I'm doing now so I can do both. But within that, those mindsets, they do creep in. And so then what happens is you start, the hormone flush phase where we are, your liver is detoxing. And sometimes that can make you feel worse for a couple of days or even a week. Now, my old mindset would be like, my doctor lied to me. He lied to
Yeah.
me and I am never going to get better. And look, I just paid $800 for that appointment. And what the heck?
Right.
Which was
Yeah.
me, guys. I'm just saying, like, I was that patient who emailed and was like, am I supposed to feel like this?
Yeah.
Because I thought I was supposed to be feeling better. Like, how long is it going to take? I just paid you a lot of money. And it was all coming from that place of fear that I would never get better, instead of trusting that there was a process that could heal me and I could actually feel better and I could get rid of my panic attacks and my insomnia and my horrible cramps, which, by the way, if you are trying to work 13 hours as a nurse and you're having heavy periods and painful cramps, not a fun situation. You can't just leave like, sorry guys, I just decided not to do my work today because I couldn't. Like, that doesn't work. Nor is that like, even, for any area of your life, really something you should have to do. So, but those mindsets hit, right? And then what happens? So like what do you do? You know, what was your gut inclination in that moment when you were like, I'm seeing these symptoms, or what are you observing, you know, in the women in the program when that happens? And it's like there's a little flare up of symptoms, whether it be headaches or mood swings or painful cramping. What is the tendency there?
Well, for me personally, I was like, I really had to work on just, that false hope, like this isn't going to work for me. Like, or my body's just so, like, you kind of take yourself out and you
Mm,
say, it's my body's just different. And we blanket it and say, that's not going to work for me. Like I have this and this and this reason. And it's like,
yeah,
well, if you really look at the other women in the group and how we all do kind of have similar, like we all have different things that we're addressing, but we
right,
do have similar experiences where there is a detox period and there is um, learning and sticking to it and being consistent. And but everybody all does have that same, like, hey,
right,
I noticed that there was less days of this, and
right,
I noticed that yeah, I was like maybe 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and but we're all doing that together.
right,
And I think that really helped me have hope. Like it helped me have hope that I wasn't alone and
right,
that I just needed to stick with it. And I
right.
really had to tell myself, I am relearning how to take care of my body. Because
Yeah,
I had to admit, I don't know how to take care of my body. Like
yeah,
I had lived, 39 years doing it wrong and, thinking I was doing it right
right,
or, minimizing it because, it's just
totally.
part of being a woman. And I really had to take that moment and say, this is a re-education for me. And I'm not just
Exactly,
gonna, it's not all gonna click in 1 week or even 12 weeks, it's gonna take time. It's gonna like,
exactly.
when different life things come up and stressors come up, I'm gonna need a game plan. I'm
Yeah,
gonna need to think ahead and how can I support my body? And even that my body needed support. I think so
right.
long I ignored my body and I didn't really give it a place. And I just pushed through. Like I'm really bad at like just pushing my body really hard until it pushes
Yeah,
back and I can't move.
right.
And I really had to like forgive myself for that and
Mhm.
do those steps and say, I am worthy of taking this time
Totally.
and doing the work and you know, doing all the things to really change how I think about myself, how I think about my health, how I think about my diet and my
Yeah,
family, and just as a whole in our relationships. And I think I just gave myself the grace to learn that
right.
and
Yes,
apply it because it's one thing to have the knowledge but to really take ownership of it of like this is what my lifestyle looks like
right,
and these are the things that need to go and I need to
right.
make space so that I can do
Totally.
those things. So I think having the group and having you because you asked me some hard questions when I was going through it and you were like, well, why are you doing that? And I would never stop and ask myself why I was doing
Yeah,
that and was that reason really healthy? Was it even serving other people well?
right.
And it was life changing. And I think having that element of support as you're doing any type of health journey or cleanse or detox, I think that's where the mindset element comes in
Totally.
and you can see the holes. And for me that was a game changer because I would have
Right.
quit. Like I'm not gonna lie, I would have quit. And even after the program I had to go back and I had to like remember,
Yeah,
I wish I would have journaled as I was going through it so
right,
when I have that tendency come
right.
up and I'm like gonna slide back into my old mindset and lifestyle, like
Totally.
I have my go-to of like, no, like this is where I need to be and this is
Totally.
possible for me.
Right.
So
Well,
yeah,
and realizing, yeah, that this isn't about doing it perfect because none of us, might
right,
be a newsflash to some people, none of us have a perfect life where
right,
the job's going to go perfectly all the time, or you and your spouse are going to get along perfectly all the time, or your children are going to never get sick and never keep you up at night.
right,
The goal is not just to get you rid of your symptoms, but it's actually to teach you how to look back and be like, what was off last month? Like, why did I have a wonky period? Was it stress? Okay, if it was stress, then how do we break that down into an action plan so that next month isn't so hard because of the mindset that we have about that particular stressor? So it's not just like do this plan and never address your stress and never address the reasons why you're not sleeping, or the fact that you're not able to do those things maybe because there's stuff going on, boundaries that need to be set, or conversations that need to be had. It's not about having it perfect. It's about taking that one action task, learning, seeing how your body responds, and then taking the next one too. And so that's a lot of what we focus on in there when, and part of it is understanding the role of a coach or having a client support specialist or somebody alongside you. Is sometimes people will be like, well, why would I need that? Because you're human and because being a woman and dealing with hormone imbalances is really hard. And there's a lot of mindsets that are deeply entrenched in your process. And so I've even had my own, like, having a special needs kid will throw off your hormones. So like all the progress I made could have been thrown under the bus had I not known this stress has the potential to have some very bad results. So what support do I need now that I didn't need then because I didn't need it then, but now I need it. So like having those tools and skills for me, I mean, I still use them and apply them. So, but it's really helping you to focus on what matters the most. So when we get into that perfection zone, it's like, okay, I see my checklist of the things I should be doing and I wasn't able to do them, or I didn't get my, however many hours of sleep is your goal for the week because my kids were up at night. That's okay. Don't focus on all of that. Focus on what you can do. Right. So what does your body need today so that you can lower your cortisol, get out of that stress response, and still see that forward movement? And so that's a lot of what we do is focus on what matters. Take the action step that you can take. We all have weird weeks. That's okay. But like, don't let it throw you off the bus, right? Stay on the bus and let us help you. And so that's really like, I think if we were to boil it down, really how mindset impacts the process. And even, when we get into when we're still in the process of healing and our mood swings haven't fully healed yet because we haven't, fully healed that gut brain connection, which takes a little while, right? Is you have a little bit of a low mood before your period and you're like, screw this. Like, I'm just whatever, all the negative thoughts. Like, we're there to be like, yes, the mood swings are still there, but like, there's some things we can do to actually pop out of that and not be feeling as crummy as we're dealing with those root causes. So even having that in play can be very helpful in managing that, or even, learning how to have a conversation with your spouse about how you're feeling. So they're not like, oh, is it just that time of the month again? Like which is appropriate. I mean, like all things considered, they've had to deal with us in some rough times, but meaning like, okay, well, let's have a conversation with your spouse then. Like, let's coach through having a conversation with your spouse about when you notice this behavior, because maybe I'm not aware because it just kind of happens to me because my physiology hasn't fully healed yet. This is what I need you to say to me to help pull me out of it. Right? Because it's not just you in this process. There is your spouse or your children or whoever else is living in your home. Do you know? So it's one of those, like, it's not just you in this equation. It is your ecosystem that's in the equation too. And so that is where, the things that could sabotage you or throw you off the horse won't anymore, because you're learning all of these tools and skills to enrich your life and expand your life so that it's not just you on this little island dealing with Helga the Horrible,
And I also love about our group is that we do have a diverse group of women who do have different walks of life. Like, I love that we come up with strategies to help moms with young children set a good bedtime routine. Like, that's been really helpful for people in, moms that work, moms that stay at home and they with kids all day. And, I need support this way. So I think it's having the group really does show you the holes and the things
Right.
that maybe you can weed out of your life that are, you don't realize they're making your life harder because you're just
Yes.
trying to do all the things. But I think really
Yep.
having a group of women that are like, it's okay to let that go. Like,
Yep.
we empower you to let that go and be a
Right.
healthier you. And just, it's okay to change. It's okay to not do
Right.
things the way you've always done them if they're not serving you well. And
Exactly.
so I do love the diversity and just how, just women of all walks of life are in this journey together.
Right.
And, what works for one woman might not work for another, but there's like a plethora of things
Totally.
that are there and available to try. So yeah, I definitely love that part. And just having a mindset of you're not alone. Like, I don't know how many times I've
Yep.
felt alone in my journey. And I've told myself, that I'm never going to get there because of, whether
Right.
I'm just like willing to let it go because I don't like to take up space. I'm a 2. So I will more than happy, like, compromise my own health
Totally.
or things that I want for other people. That's
Right.
just what I do. And so just being empowered by that and like not being alone in the journey and feeling
Totally.
validated was huge for me too. Like,
Right.
okay, I'm not the only one. Because there's things that we don't talk about as women because we think
Right.
we're the only one or we think it's taboo. And we go there in the group. I think,
Right.
there's times where it's like, oh, it's okay to talk about this here. And it's like, yeah, this is
Totally.
a safe place. And what you bring up can help somebody else. So
Exactly.
I love that about the community of the Happy Hormones group. So
Awesome.
it's just amazing. I can't say enough good things about it.
Well, yes, I love it too. And I love getting to watch people, get into that, we're in that place of like frustration. And I don't love that part. I'm not saying I love that part. I love when they realize that they can do it. And it's like, okay, that, that is a big issue, but what we really should be focusing on is the other side of that.
Mhm.
Otherwise you're just going to be staring this thing in the face and like wondering why it's there. So
Yeah.
I love that part where there's the breakthrough moment of like, oh my gosh, okay. Or like my husband even said to me the other day, this happens all the time. We're like, you're happier. Like you look like you're not frustrated all the time. Or I'm not nervous, like your period's coming. You know what I mean? Like, should I plan an out of town trip or like, you know, um,
Right.
so this is a family transformative process too. It's not just you transforming, but when you transform, your family transforms. So if you are watching this and this has resonated with you, I'd love to hear in the comments. If you're wondering if this process could help you, then you can either private message me and let me know that you'd like to schedule a time to chat, and we'd be happy to set that up for you. Liz, thank you so much for sharing your story as well as your expertise. I love, getting to hear all of that. And I know that other people are going to resonate with that as well. So thank you everybody for joining. I hope everybody has an amazing rest of their Tuesday, and reach out to us if you have any questions. Okay. Thanks, Liz.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay. Bye-bye.